up to 70% or more of the population of unstable metabolism. Much of what we used to think about metabolism is actually not correct. The truth is, based on recent research that came out just a few years ago, that when you study 6,000 people across 20 countries, starting from the ages of 2 days old to 90 years old, everyone is born with the same metabolism. We're all born with the same metabolism, not different metabolism. My sister's got a fast metabolism and she's skinny as a stick and can eat anything, and I've been struggling my whole, you know that old saying? It's really because that was our lives. Ultra-processed foods. You know, there's a danger element to them. I think we're beginning to wake up as a society to ask questions about that. Feel full. You're less likely to overeat. All right, so what are some foods that you can eat that actually make you feel full? And how do you eat them? Well, first of all, foods that have a lot of dietary fiber, like today. Correct me if I'm wrong, but about half the population has some form of it, maybe even more, because it's really metabolic syndrome. So we're talking about up to 70% or more of the population, depending on what age category you're talking about, have unstable metabolisms. 70%. Yeah. Now I'm telling you, now I wrote about in my second book, Eat to Beat Your Diet, that the thing about metabolism that gets so misunderstood, and this is really important for longevity, is that when we are born, all humans come out of the box, all right, with the same metabolic operating system. Just like a laptop that comes out of a box, you buy your laptop, I buy my laptop, plug them in, start them up. The operating system is exactly the same. What happens? That gives us different directionalities. My metabolism, different than your metabolism. Or maybe we're more similar than dissimilar, okay, because of what we do to kind of take care of our lives. But let's talk about the general population. Why is it that everyone seems to be going in a different direction, right? My sister's got a fast metabolism and she's skinny as a stick and can eat anything. And I've been struggling my whole, that old saying, it's really because just like your laptop, the metabolism operating system is designed to work in a particular way. But like in the laptop, if you drop it, overheat it, spill some coffee on it, don't take care of it, download viruses, on your operating system, it's not going to be working as faster or as well. But the good news with metabolism is that we can basically reel it back because our internal hardwiring is the way it's supposed to be. And I think that's the missing point. Even though we've got this sort of metabolic derangement society-wise, the fact of the matter is we all have it within us to be able to get back to our original state.
It's so true. Yeah. I mean, when I love buying a new laptop because it's like it seems to work just as Apple has intended it to. It's super
fast. The desktop is totally clean, but then inevitably, 2-3 years down the road, the desktop is all cluttered. It's not working as fast as it used to. And that's probably due to user error. That's not due to some error within the hardware, right?
No. And it's the same deal with our metabolism. And again, this is part of the focus on the present as you're getting to the horizon, right? So just like on your computer, your laptop, you want to do some operating system software hygiene every now and then. You got to do a virus scan and you got to reboot something. You might need to reload a few things. Same deal with our metabolism. We need to actually every now and then just take stock of it. Look, people are busy. We got those of us who have busy lives, we got other things to think about than to focus all the time on our health. And this is true, for people who are biohackers and things like that. I mean, look, listen, if you got the time to do it, awesome, more power to you to be able to focus on things. But most people are really busy busy just with the daily activities of what they're trying to do. Okay. What I'm saying for metabolism and getting back to basics, which is what we were talking about before the podcast started, how do we get back to basics? Give yourself some metabolic reset, a little hygiene every now and then. That is one of the first and best steps to get towards longevity. If you feel full, you're less likely to overeat, right? Right? I mean, it just doesn't feel good to stuff yourself to the gills. All right. So what are some foods that you can eat that actually make you feel full? And how do you eat them so you can kind of get to that better desired state? Well, first of all, foods that have a lot of dietary fiber, like chickpeas, legumes, lentils, white beans. I mean, you ever have like a bean taco? All right. Like one bean taco will make you eat less dinner later on, right? For lunch, they'll make you eat less dinner later on. And that's because beans, with all that dietary fiber, actually have a satiety effect not only on your gut, but also in your brain. And that's a good thing. And that dietary fiber, by the way, has a fringe benefit, a big one, which is that that dietary fiber feeds our gut microbiome. And that gut microbiome turns out to be much more important than we thought for longevity. Okay? And this is an area that I'm super fascinated by because here we are talking about gut health and anti-inflammation and autoimmune diseases and all the current discussion around gut health, all right? Turns out the latest research shows that this is as important in ways that we haven't fully figured out yet for longevity, supporting the gut microbiome. That's right. Okay, so dietary fiber is important. We talk a lot about protein, the value of protein on this podcast as well. Would you say that protein is important as well? Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Protein is super important, especially once you get beyond the age of 40. Most people need to actually keep up and build up on their protein. So the question is, what is your source of protein? Now, I'm somebody who believes that having a balanced diet, more of an omnivore type of diet, you're capable and willing to, you're opening your mind to eat anything that's good for you. And by the way, preference is also really important. You want to eat the things that are good for you, that you actually enjoy eating. Like that's the alignment you're really looking for. Listen, you want to live long and live well. You want to do the things that you want to do. You don't want to actually feel like you're in a box or a cage, right? And so this is why the choice of protein becomes important. Now, look, there's a lot of data and a lot of people that say that you should cut down or cut out red meat. I leave it for the people that really take a stance for or against that, okay? What I say is that, eating meat is part of an omnivore balanced diet. You can have red meat, but you can also have poultry. You can also have fish. All right. And if you want to go into the plant realm, you've got all these legumes and you've got plant-based proteins. They're all good as well. Interestingly, there was a study on longevity that looked at different dietary patterns to figure out what are the patterns that seem to lead to better brain health. Okay, so less dementia. And it turns out, and they studied people who ate a lot of carbs. They studied people that ate a lot of junk food and a lot of specific protein. They studied vegetarians and they studied people with a balanced diet. And it turns out the people who wound up having the best cognition, brain health in the long run were the people that had a balanced diet, better than the vegetarians. Okay. Now, we don't understand the whole aspect of it, but it just goes to show you if you take a religious style side about your foods, you might actually be missing out on something that science is still in the process of figuring out. Balanced diet is actually there, and protein is one of those critical macros that we have a lot of choices to actually get from. So that's what I actually think about protein.
Yeah, I think about it, less in terms of balance and more in terms of dietary diversity. Like it's really important to incorporate different sources of protein because, if all you're doing is eating red meat, then you're missing out on the abundance of omega-3 fatty acids in fatty fish, for example. So for me, I feel like based on what I understand about the literature, there's value in it's a way of hedging your bets at the very least. Like you're incorporating all of these different varied micronutrients that are found in different protein sources, right?
No, that's completely true. And this is not so much of an argument to be a carnivore, but what you're pointing out is incredibly important. There are things that you can get in meats
that you don't get as well from legumes. For example, iron, like at a high level, because it comes from blood, which is what you get in meat. That's really important. Omega 3s, you're not going to be getting a lot of those, even in the animals that eat plants. You're not going to get as much as you get in fish, and so I think that, as a researcher, I follow the bouncing ball of where the evidence comes from. And it turns out that while it's absolutely true, eating a primarily plant based diet is a generally better way to go. So far, all the evidence from longevity perspective says that eating more diversity is actually going to support your long life. Hey there, are you ready to use food to improve your health? I do cover a lot in my YouTube videos, but there's only so much time to dive deep into how to use food as medicine. That's why I created my Eat to Beat Disease course. In my course, I walk you through how to use everyday foods that you can find in your grocery store to boost your body's health defenses. This is all based on my research, and everything is rooted in science. And I've made it super easy to follow with practical, everyday tips. Whether you're trying to prevent disease or just want to optimize your health for longevity, my Eat to Beat Disease course gives you all the tools to make it real and to help you get lasting changes that will help you live longer and live better. To learn more, click the link below or scan the QR code on the screen. I can't wait to get started together in my course. Now, back to the video. Oatmeal is an oatmeal you can buy, rolled oats, in a canister, and that's all there is to it. Please look at the ingredient label, which is what I do. Now that I've made these research discoveries, I'm eat oatmeal every now and then, not every single day, but like if I had a choice, I'm going to make my own with just water. I still don't put dairy in it. And then, I'll take some dried fruits because I know there's other bioactives, dried cranberries to get the L-argitannins and anthocyanins. I'll get all that stuff, or crushed nuts, right? Need to get some dietary fiber, get some healthy monounsaturated fatty acids, good for my cholesterol. I'm trying to think about, this whole idea of how do you start your day? Back to the question you asked, how can one start one's day in the healthiest way possible? For me, cup of coffee, I don't adulterate it. I know what's in it. It's got chlorogenic acid. It's good for so many aspects of health and longevity. It adds to my quality of life. So that's part of my health span and lifespan. Coffee, by the way, slows down the rate of cellular aging as well. So that's been studied in people. Phenomenal. I don't think too much about it. I just get my cup out of Joe. But yeah, you have it. You enjoy it. But I enjoy it okay. And that's, at the end of the day, the most important thing. I know that oatmeal with this research could be beneficial, but it depends on how you get it and what you put in it. And so, it's all in the details, right? So like the quality of the product that you're having, and for me, if I can get Greek yogurt, I might have it every now and then. I don't have it every day. Other than the coffee, there's probably no single thing that I do every single day because I love diversity. And, like in my books, I've written about 200 or 300 foods. I love to choose from them. It's kind of like I feel like I'm the kid in the candy shop of health every single day. From the time I wake up and the choices I make, I just have a lot of fun picking things that I love that are good for me. I think that really the message of what you're sharing here is that it's not good and bad foods generally. When you were talking about whole foods, minimally processed, and actually goes back to how processed is it? If it's super adulterated, you can take anything that actually could be a great food for you or part of a healthy diet. If somebody is largely eating whole foods, getting their steps in, doing some resistance training, and they want some oatmeal, and that's their preferred way to get carbohydrates. And it's not filled with a ton of sugar, but even if they want to put a little bit of honey or maple syrup and they're putting nuts in and other stuff, they're going to be a healthy person. Right? It's only when we rely heavily on these ultra processed forms in all areas of our life. You mentioned how coffee can be great for us. And there's some people out there that are drinking coffee and it's truly maybe 30 grams, 20 grams of sugar every single morning, day in and day out. And that's not the only thing that they're doing. There's food dyes in there, there's syrups, there's other stuff. And then that leads to the next thing. They might have 2 lattes in a day. Then there might be a lot of processed foods in the diet. So it's really about how we approach these things. That's what I'm hearing from you.
Well, yeah, you're right. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. But one thing I want to do for anybody listening to this is to try to bring a little bit of discipline and clarity to this idea of the use of the word processed and ultra processed, because I think we, those of us who talk about it all the time, we understand what we're trying to say. But I think for people who are listening, sometimes there's some confusion. What's, if what's processed versus also processed. And what I tell people is that we very rarely eat raw ingredients one at a time. Maybe an exception is a salad bar, or a fruit plate. You're eating every forkful is like one thing, a little thing of lettuce, a little tomato, a little
watermelon or pineapple. Most of the time, the foods that we eat, the food I enjoy, is cooked, prepared, whether it's Chinese food, Indian food, Mexican food, Spanish food, Italian food, it's prepared. And that means that you're taking raw ingredients and doing something with it, which is processing it. So you ever see how they make homemade pasta? Get a big amount of flour, make a little hole in it like a volcano crater, crack a couple of eggs, and just use your fingertips to start working it until it actually firms up. And then you roll it out. Okay, so that's like grandma in Italy making pasta the way it's been done for thousands of years, right? That's processed. You're processing the food. Minimally processed, a lot of minimally processed, but the point is that like homemade like that with fresh ingredients could be technically considered processed, but that's not what we're talking about when we talk about the foods that we should be more careful about. Now, there's so much discussion about the food industry, and I want to maybe touch on that just a little bit. But ultra processed foods are not the foods you make at home, like manipulate at home to turn into a meal. Those are the ones that are made in a big factory and where machines are extruding ingredients and converting ingredients into forms and shapes like animal crackers, for example, that wouldn't naturally occur in nature. And then add lots of chemicals to them, emulsifiers, preservatives, artificial coloring, artificial flavoring, added sugar. That's another one. Okay. And this is all transparently on the ingredient label, but hidden in plain sight to the consumer. And so ultra processed foods are a choice that many of us have been, I would say, conditioned to reach for because of how we grew up in our society. Something out of a box that tastes really great and it's sweet and it's not very expensive. So maybe your mom bought a lot of it and it's in your pantry maybe for months and months and months. Like food not supposed to last that long, okay? And it's all engineered for convenience, shelf life, longer, it lasts better, is for consumers, so to speak. That's what they make us believe, or certainly for the grocery store. And it's cheap and it's available, right? And then it's engineered to really make you crave it, right? So I don't call it a conspiracy. Companies do what companies do. That's what they're trying to do. Their job is to create stuff, for their shareholders who are actually counting on them to create stuff. The responsibility comes to us as consumers to make those healthy choices, right? I mean, look, you get in a car every day and you drive to your work or whatever. Up to you if you're going to actually speed and endanger yourself and other people, or you're going to drive in a speed limit. And so these are choices we make. We make good choices and we can make bad choices. But if every day you choose to make a choice that puts you in danger, okay? And I think that's really where this modern sensibility is like all this stuff that we just thought was our lives, ultra processed foods, there's a danger element to them. I think we're beginning to wake up as a society to ask questions about that. And at the end of the day, it's up to us to make those good choices.
What are some of the myths around metabolism, and what are some practical steps that people can do to start repairing their metabolism?
Yeah, one of my favorite topics, because this is actually very, very new research that's coming out to inform us that much of what we used to think, and this is the medical community as well, much of what we used to think about metabolism is actually not correct. So I'm going to first throw out there some commonly held beliefs about metabolism, and then I'm going to tell you the truth about them. But what research is discovering, so common belief number one, that the metabolism that we have is really the result of some random process where your sister might actually have a fast metabolism, be skinny as a stick, and can eat anything. And you might actually have a slower metabolism and been struggling with food your whole life. I mean, we've all heard that or maybe experienced that. And that is a commonly held belief. The truth is, based on recent research that came out just a few years ago, that when you study 6,000 people across 20 countries, starting from the ages of 2 days old to 90 years old, this is the largest study of human metabolism done in exactly the same way. Everyone is born with the same metabolism. We're all born with the same metabolism, not different metabolism. What happens is that our metabolism evolves and takes on different paths as we get older due to the experiences, the exposures, and the behaviors that actually happen after we're born. And by the way, why would we think that our metabolism is just a roll of the dice like in a casino? It's ridiculous, right? Like when we're born, we're hardwired to work in a particular way. Our organs, all our, when you were born and I was born, our ears worked the same way. Our kidneys worked the same way. Our hearts were designed the same way. Our thyroids were all designed the same way. What makes us think that, it was just a crapshoot, that somebody had a fast one and somebody's slow? Second myth is that basically when you get into middle age, that your metabolism is automatically going to slow down, right? And I think a lot of us, a lucky few may not have actually experienced this, but I think many of us agree that the commonly held belief is that, you're good when you're 20, you're good when you're 30, and then when you're 40, things slow down and you're going to change your clothing size and you're not going to fit into the same old clothes. You're not going to look so good. And by the time you're 50 or 60, you're going to have to just accept the fact that you've gone through middle age and that your body and your metabolism is going to be different. And then a lot of people just throw up their hands and say, you know what, I just got to accept it. Or maybe they don't accept it and it winds up developing a complex or some other heavy weight that they carry around with them, and it causes, dysphoria or body image issues. This is very common. And then sometimes people get so depressed they wind up taking on other habits, including eating habits that are actually definitely bad for metabolism. Okay, so that's a commonly held belief. Middle age means that you're going to be changing, your metabolism is going to slow down, and along with that goes the belief that if you have a slow metabolism, that's what causes you to gain weight and get fat, grow more body fat. All right, what's the truth? So from this latest breaking research on human metabolism, it has now been established that not only are we all born with the same metabolism, but that throughout our lives, during our lifespan, humans go through 4 different phases of metabolism. So phase 1 is from 0, from birth to 1-year-old, skyrocketing metabolism babies have a very, very high metabolism. In fact, 50% higher than an adult's metabolism at 1 year old. All right. And by the way, think about it. That metabolism means that we're absorbing everything as little babies and processing it. Should we think about the wisdom of exposing them to microplastics coming from the teddy bears, from the binky, from the pacifier, from all the stuff that we surround them with? I throw that out there because this new research is making us reconsider what we're exposing our young people to, right? Like at the beginning of their life, which could influence their metabolism for the rest of their lives. Okay. Now, so the second phase of metabolism is during adolescence. Just so we think that teenagers who are full of energy, eating 2 or 3 dinners, bouncing off the wall with energy, right? Anybody who's had kids will recognize it. Or if you have a niece or a nephew, oh my gosh, that person's metabolism must be going crazy. Actually, between the ages of 1 and 20, human metabolism is going down, 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 down. From 1-year-old high down to adult levels to 20 years old, and then from 20 years old to 60 years old. And this is the mic drop finding. Yeah, really? 20-year-old to 60 years old, human metabolism is designed to be rock stable, doesn't change. That's how we're hardwired. How we're hardwired? That means 60 can be the new 20 if you want it to be. Like if you're like, that's how we are actually hardwired. And then from 60 to 90, we have about a 17% drop in metabolism. That means that by the time you're 90, you should still be 17% of 60 or 20. All right. So human metabolism is actually hardwired to be very, very vigorous. Hardwired. Now, I'm using the word hardwired because obviously what actually happens is something different, right? I mean, we do see people with very different metabolisms. We do see people struggling with their weight and their food and their energy levels, right? So what's actually really happening? Well, if I told you that the truth about human metabolism is that we are born with a hardwired program, like the operating system of a laptop, okay? That's hardwiring, right? That's how our hearts work, our kidneys work, our brains are supposed to work that way as well. What happens over life? So let's say, Claudia, you and I buy the same model of laptop. You go to your computer store, I go to mine, we buy the same model, we plug it in, and we boot it up. We charge it and boot it up, all right? Operating system out of the box is exactly the same. That's like our metabolism when we're born. Now, let's say that you are this absolutely meticulous caretaker of your technology because you have a background in tech field, so you know what it can do. So you shut down your laptop, you make sure that there's no viruses, you download, you keep it in a warm place, you never drop it. You always have okay, I'm a busy guy. I'm less careful. I'm in a rush a lot. So I occasionally spill coffee on mine. I just wipe it up and I do it. I download all kinds of stuff because I'm a researcher. So I'm downloading everything. Viruses are accumulating and I drop my computer every now and then and I don't. And I sometimes leave it in a hot car. All right. Now what happens is that the operating system of your computer is going to maintain its really healthy system, whereas mine is going to start going off the rails. Okay. And that's what happens to our metabolism. We all start the same way, but depending on what we're exposed to, how we are treated, how we treat ourselves, that can lead to radically different paths. Now, during middle age, all right, the 40s and 50s and 60s, this is actually where not only does the cumulative effect of our life experiences alter our metabolism, all right, but hormonal changes that naturally occur during that period of time lower estrogen, lower testosterone, by the way, the andropause.